Kaiser Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaiser Radio. Obey your thirst for the truth.
Because you're worth knowing the truth.
Quench it with Kaiser Radio.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM.
Now is 35 in Guyana, and you're tuned into Kaiju Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. And it is time for COVID-19 and elections watch this afternoon. At the helm of the program, as usual, senior journalist of Kaiju News, Leonard Gildarie, alongside his co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, dear Kevin. Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, dear Dr. Yog Mahadeo. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Fine, thank you. Looking on, 502 boxes remaining, sir.
502. That was as yesterday or as of now?
That's as of this morning when they started.
Very good. And not only that, it's day 28 of the recount, and it is more than 3 months. Today is June the 2nd. I hope I haven't said that wrong. And you remember 3 months back. It has been a journey. In fact, it has been a journey since December the 21st. 2018, Yog. The people, I'm not sure. Have we been beaten into submission, or is this part of the life of Guyanese?
I don't think human beings can ever be beaten into submission. I think we will rise for another day. We are being vigilant. And I also want to say, Leonard, that, I want to say on behalf of everybody on this program, I want to say to Madam Claudette Singh, happy 3rd anniversary. I hope all your votes come true. All the wishes. Happy 3rd anniversary, Justice Claudette Singh.
Well, I don't know what to say to that. I'm not sure if it's 3rd anniversary, mean by if you're making a snide remark there, whether you be in it is 3rd anniversary in terms of the 3rd month.
Well, it's the 3rd month since it's 3 months since March 2nd. And remember, immediately after March 2nd, Madam Claudette Singh is on record saying these elections were free and fair and above board. They were clean. They passed all the certifications. So 3 months after, we are still to have a declaration from those results. And, I'm saying that at least it's 3 months, and happy 3rd anniversary. And, in anniversary, you wish for the best to happen. So we certainly wish the best to GCOM.
Well, my birthday is coming up this year, and so I hope that you give me a early birthday. But in any case,
Another one.
But let me tell you, Yog, I want to say a good day. I hope that you guys are feeling very optimistic, or let's be upbeat, because every time there's a dark cloud, a dark spirit over us, we don't get anything done. So wherever you are in Guyana, across the coastlands, whether you're in the farmlands, we have a couple of friends there in the Region 5 area. They've been calling us. And of course, Yog, do you know that we have a really big following in Region 2, in the Wayaka area, Lake Mainstay area, all around there, up the Pomeroon? We've been receiving lots of calls, so people are really tuning into us, and I want to say good day to you folks. If you're listening, a good afternoon. I hope that the weather is nice. Get up, let's do our things as normal. We cannot allow anything to stop us. As Yog would always say, he is an eternal optimist, and so we have to be very positive. Positive things do good for ourselves, our very spirit and so on. We come out day in, day out. Yog and I think we're talking about anniversary. Yog, we have an anniversary to celebrate. The only thing is we can't go anywhere. So it has been a couple of weeks, a couple of months now, more than 2 months now that we've been with you consistently from March the 2nd. Almost every single day we've been with you on the radio here, Kaicho Radio, bringing you the news as it comes with regards to not only elections 2020, but this pandemic, very worrisome pandemic. I'm looking here At Brazil cases, they've passed 500,000 cases, Yog. 500,000 cases. They had 653 deaths recorded as of Monday. That is just a 1 day period that so many people died. We have 12 that is recorded in Guyana, just over 150 persons, 50 cases. But the problem that we have in Guyana, Yog, is that the numbers keep rising and rising. And every single day that I drive, I go about doing my business, whatever it is, I do it quickly and off the road. I'm taking this thing very, very seriously because of the suffering that you would see people go through. It is not easy to have a ventilator pushed down your throat, and I can't put it any better than that. But when you see the suffering that comes, your hands are tied when you see that person on the bed. And imagine if the senior citizens and they're old and they can't do anything, they can't lift a hand. And what do you say? How do you feel about that person when they're going through that? And if you have underlying condition, you know, Guyanese people like to eat. We get up all hours of the night and eat. So we have some very unhealthy lifestyle. Even during this COVID here, and maybe there's a topic for another day. But to come back to what is happening, we have one area in Guyana, the Aranca area in Region 7, which has been deemed as an epicenter, epicenter of Region 7. That's an area that never had it. It's a bad signal right now because we know we've been talking about it, about that border area, Venezuela as well as Brazil. And people have been coming and going, and so I'm not sure the army and the police really need to step in there, and they need to start strengthening our monitoring. You know, we've always had a very easy time with our neighbors, Venezuela as well as Brazil. Never mind the problem we had with our borders with Venezuela there, but the fact is, we've always welcomed them with open arms. They have welcomed us. If you go to Brazil, Latam, Region 9, you see the easy way that people would cross the border via the Takatu River, the Takatu Bridge. And even if you go into some other areas that is more along the Rupanduni, you would see people just crossing the river going over to Brazil as if they go into to Georgetown, to America Street or the Stabrook Market or somewhere. It is a way of life for them. So when you're talking about closing the borders and having the people on there, it's a big thing. So I want to say welcome to everybody who's joined us, of course, overseas. We have quite a number of persons in New York as well, in Canada, in Mexico would be joining us. We have people as far as Norway, Brazil, Suriname, right across the Caribbean. A good day to you. And of course, our people right in Guyana. Yog, look at our front page in Kaiser News today. The big thing that we were talking about yesterday was that letter by Claudette Singh, which the opposition is raising a stink over. Claudette Singh, as GCOM chair, would have written the Commissioner of Police asking him to verify whether these people were out of the country on elections day. Of course, we would have been able, or we could not put any importance to the information unless we would have checked it. Kaiser News is saying in the lead headline here today, top cop, this is the Commissioner of Police, gives false information to Claudette Singh, and she's a GCOM chair. And if you look at the story, what he would have said is these people are out of the country. Kaiser News is saying that the reporters are saying when they made a check, some of these people surfaced and they've come with an ID card and said, look, I'm right here. They could not have come after a certain time because the borders were closed. So the airports were closed. So I am not sure how the situation is going to develop. But let's get right into it. That's a big story of the day because we know, let's put that in context. Before I hand you over to Dr. Yog. The fact is, there is a recount that is ongoing. We have just over 500 boxes according to our latest figures here in Kaiser News. And based on the recount, there would have been a number of observations that would have been raised by the by the coalition. That's the APNU AFC. And they, among other things, they would have said that a number of migrants would have voted. So the GCOM chair would have written the Commissioner of Police, were these people out of the country or were they in? And he would have written back. So I put you over to Dr. Yog Mahadeo. He might have some more details on this. Yog?
Well, it's a critical revelation. Look, we seem to be vacillating back and forth with any number of variables that have been applied throughout these election processes. I just want to say something, Leonard. We need to keep in context the chronological, the trend, the chronology of things happening. On March 5th, I think it was, or March 3rd, when Mingo made the first declaration, and then 2 weeks later, the second declaration, and up to that point, up to 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the elections, there was one political party that is insisting that I'm not going to release my SOPs, but I have won these elections. Now, that's 3 weeks. So you go a month later, you get to the end of the Ulita Moore case, Leonard. These things are important. The trend is very, very important here. You have to the end of Ulita Moore's case. You have up to when the GCOM, 1 month after, decided that it was going to do this order that it gazetted. So 2 months passed from election day. 2 months passed from election day, and nothing about fraudulent voters, nothing about dead voters, nothing about migrant voters, not a whisper was said about any irregularity. All of a sudden, we are hearing that there are or there would be irregularities in terms of so-called people who are out of the country that seem to have voted. So obviously people who are out of the country cannot have voted. It means what they are saying is that some people within this country would have voted multiple times, which means what they're saying that with all the the GCOM, the polling officer in place, the GCOM employee, along with the party agents, they were all in cahoots with the persons who were voting multiple times. That is the accusation that APNU AFC is making. Let me repeat that. APNU AFC is basically saying that the 10,000 persons that were part of the entire system, they were bought out, maybe by the opposition or somebody. And so there were multiple cases of voting. So now you come to Leslie James and you come to the Deputy Immigration Officer. Are you hearing me clearly?
I'm getting you a little scratchy there, Yog.
Yeah. Let me.
We seem to be getting a little connection problem there, with the internet. But Yog, are you hearing us very clearly?
Let me come back on.
Yes. So in the meantime, while Yog is coming, let's go straight back into what our Kaicho newspaper would have been saying today. And there's some very stark headlines. Like, for example, we have been paying very close attention to that elections there over in Suriname, our neighbor to the east. And there is, you would recall that last Monday, there would have been an election, general elections. And the results or the preliminary results that came out has put the incumbent President Desi Bouters at a devastating loss. He's moved from 26 seats, majority there, to 16. And so the elections is being led right now by Mr. Chandra Santoki. So what has happened in more than 1 week now, the incumbent President Desi is asking the elections body over in Suriname there to have a recount, and they have not really responded. But yesterday there was a statement that is coming out from an observer, a CARICOM observer team that was in Suriname, and they would have left today to return to wherever they would have come from. And they would have said that, look, there were some glitches, logistical and otherwise, but we can't find any evidence of fraud in the elections of Suriname. That was on last Monday. So there seems to be a problem. We're paying very close attention. Yog, I'm not sure. Evening...
Can you hear me now?
Very, very clear, Yog.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you for that. So last evening, we would have had Ron Sanders, and he is from Antigua there. and he has some connections, lots of experience. A Guyanese that's been living there. It was a pleasure really listening to him. Before we get into it, he said a couple of things last night, going, buying movie tickets and going to the cinemas, going into pit and hanging with the boys and so on. And he's a wonderful storyteller. Back in his days, very experienced broadcaster, living overseas now. One of the things that you did not say is that he's the son-in-law, of course, of Sir Srilat Ramphal, a good campaigner, former Attorney General in Guyana. And when it comes to lots of experience between those two gentlemen, a lot of history there, and they could be able to sit down and spin a yarn in different ways come Monday. So last evening, he would have told Room 592 a lot of things, including what would have happened with regards to, or what is likely to happen to Guyana if it continues to tread, or if it attempts to have a government that is not recognized by any elections that would have been held on March 2nd. And so maybe you could just in a nutshell, what really happened there? What did he say?
Yeah, and look, it has to be placed in perspective to the entire charade that we have been seeing from election day to now, Leonard. From the moment of Mingo's first, the infamous declaration that was thrown out, vacated by the courts, the international community held one view, unanimously one view, and that is, unless there is a legitimate government of Guyana, there will be sanctions. What did the incumbent do? The incumbent response was that we are not scared, we're a sovereign state. All of the spins started to happen. So as you know, the spin stops in room 592. The spin comes to an end because we unleash the truth. So Leonard, Ron Sanders was very, very clear last night that when you're talking about sanctions, here is the breadth, the length, the width of these sanctions and how it can affect Guyana. Now, when we talk about sanctions, I want us all to appreciate this. There are personal sanctions that will be taken against persons who are engaged in fraud and who are trying to take Guyana out of the village, the global village. And there are also sanctions upon a country. We all suffer. We will all suffer because of the wanton corruption and the wanton greed of one set of persons. And that cannot be allowed to happen. Now, Sir Ron Sanders was very clear also that Guyana has a huge potential, huge role to play, not just in the region, but in the world economy. He mentioned how Guyana has basically played a part of the economy of CARICOM, but he also mentioned critically, Leonard, he said Guyana has been a consistent problem for CARICOM. We have always been, remember CARICOM came, he mentioned the Herdmanston Accord. Remember when one set of politicians did not like the results of that election, we got the Herdmanston Accord. I think we know it was the PPPC that had to cut its term short. Was a three-year term, I think, to allow the Herdmanston Accord to come into being. What happens thereafter? One thing after the other, and I want to make sure that we clear the air with something here, Leonard. When Claude Singh vitiated those elections, I want to let everybody remember, it was both the PPP and the PNC that had agreed that voter ID card will be a requirement. It was a safeguard that they both agreed to put in place for the elections. After the election, the PNC took that elections to the court because the Constitution does not require an ID card. And so on the point of order, the election was vitiated, on that point of law. So all of this nonsense about election being vitiated and local government elections being thrown out or not being held for so much years, people know the history and people must be aware of the history. And what I like about Sir James and Sir Ron Sanders, they were bringing out the undiluted, undisputed histories that we can not be proud of. We want to start being proud of this nation, Leonard. I want to come back to the question that you know my sound system went off on. This whole thing, and Kaiser News, I think kudos to you, kudos to, I think it's Kimal King. Yes, Kimal King. kudos to that gentleman. He did a fine investigative piece of writing here, Leonard. When you grow up, you need to be like Kimal.
I want to. I want to. Thank you for that.
No, but jokes aside, Kimal did a fine piece of writing here. And, you know, it reminds me of the writing you used to do when you had the time to do investigative journalism. I know you were busy on radio nowadays. But listeners, viewers, the truth is that, you know, somehow or the other, APNO AFC got information. Somehow or the other, it got information. I don't know if it's the Russians rule. Somehow or the other, they got information. And they've been throwing these numbers out during the recount to say these persons are migrants, but they voted. Those are allegations. In the process, the chairman of GCOM said, he who asserts must prove. Yet, the chairman went against her own words, and she sought proof from the police. The police then sent her what Kimal King has proven, flawed information. Now, because of the timing, Kimal King was only able to investigate three that came out very readily. Who knows how many more of the 172 is totally abhorrently flawed? Timing is an issue. This letter back and forth between the chairman and the commissioner of police happened within the last couple of days. Kimal King had 1 day, and in that 1 day, this gentleman was able to unearth that these claims, this letter from Leslie James to the chairman has flaws. Whatever is the percentage of flaws, it has flaws. Now, one would be left to see what is the next chess move. What is the next thing that GCOM will be up to? And I want to say this in closing this part here, Leonard. Timothy Jonas has taken a lot of beat up for saying what he said, but Timothy Jonas has posited openly that he believes GCOM is not independent. GCOM has taken a side in these elections. And I want you to know tomorrow night, we're going to get Timothy Jonas and Lennox Schumann in room 592 and unleash the truth there from those two fine gentlemen.
Great. Very good. Well, there's two things that I want to point to you. We were all talking about that decision by the GCOM chair to take it upon herself, and I use that in inverted commas because we didn't know until this disclosure here by the public relations officer of GCOM, Yolanda Ward, last evening. And so we would have been debating whether there was a collective decision by the commission to write the commission of police to find out whether these persons were indeed out of the country or in the country. Yesterday, the PRO, listen to this very carefully, the PRO said it was not a commission's decision. Now, the question that is on the table, Yog, a decision like this that has to do with the recount and maybe the credibility of the recount, should it have been a decision of the commission, or can the chairperson take it upon herself to do that?
The chairperson has the freedom to do whatever actions she can undertake to educate herself so as to make an educated decision. Because remember, 3 commissioners are going to vote for the APNO AFC side and 3 are going to vote for the PPP side. So I don't blame her for wanting to take such action as to make her educated enough to make a good decision. But Leonard, I wish to also strike at one thing. There are a lot of numbers being thrown out, you know, over the past couple of weeks. And I've seen my very good friend, Mr. Brian Collison, is posting. Brian, how are you, my brother? It would be good to bring you in room 592 very soon, Brian. And I'll make contact with you if you can send me your contact number. But Brian, Leonard, Brian, and members of the AFC, APNO, PNC, they're basically questioning that this bloated list has created this problem. How can a bloated list create a problem? It is live voters that will go into vote. A bloated list does not walk into vote. How can you say 10,000 people in this country were either blind or they passed away during the election day to allow multiple persons to vote multiple times? And what happened to all of your scrutineers? What happened to your regional scrutineers? What happened to your overseers? They too were blind and deaf and dumb that 2 months after election, they could not have pointed to one case of multiple voting. So this nonsense about the numbers, and if we go with the numbers, if you go with the numbers that are circulating, I call it nonsense because what they have said is out of the 200 and 300,000 votes that have already been counted, 200,000 shouldn't have voted. So really we are seeing 100,000 people voted in these elections. That is utter absurdity.
I'm not sure, but you should be working on CNN, and I will do the research for you. But here the thing is, Yog, we have to come back because this is an issue that I rather suspect, based on what I'm seeing, is going to surface in the next coming days. When we did this order for the recount to happen, did it contemplate taking objections, observations? And what did the order, for the sake of the people who are listening, what did the order say with regards to how we should treat with those observations?
The order is basically limited in its wording, that the observations are going to be made. The observations will be summarized. A summary of those observations will then, upon the request of the commission, be tendered in a report to the commission. That's all it says. It does not say, it does not go into any details as to whether there will be a contemplation by the commission or an investigation by the commission or anything. What you and I know is that, you know, the wherewithal of the chairman to act or to make a decision has to be taking everything in consideration. So I want to just get this right, Leonard. You and I have been extremely harsh on the chairman, and I continue to be. Because I believe that the cart is before the horse. I believe she is responding too much to some things that may be baiting her to respond in a particular way. I'll tell you why. So, for example, Gunraj last week was admonished for speaking on behalf of the chairman, yet Alexander spoke on behalf of the chairman on Saturday, and zilch, nada, nothing. So all of these things are, and it's not good because the population is seeing something here. And Madam Chairman needs to face the public. She needs, look, I almost feel sorry for Yolanda Ward. That's the PRO, right? I think I got the name right. I feel sorry for her. She went in front of the media yesterday, and she is unable to answer 80% of the questions. You have somebody to face the media, but they don't have the information to share with the media. What's the purpose? Why are we throwing smoke up all the time? Why don't we just face the population and answer the question? Bring the truth. We are paying you to do that. $9 billion we are paying GCOM, Leonard. Now the next thing we hear, Mr. Mingo is comfortably employed. Not even suspended. Not even suspended, pending investigation. Investigation that is currently ongoing. Every box that is open on Region 4 is an investigation on Mingo's declaration. And the man has not been even suspended. He's comfortably earning the taxpayers' money every day. And that is as far as I would say one can take in this country, because how much more do you want to push down the throats of the citizenry?
Well, how much more? So let me take off my hat here as anybody and just sit on the fence. I don't know. So I'm going to ask you this. So we go into a recount and we expect things to show up, and things did show up according to the collation. So how does this all figure when it comes to the collation? Sorry, the GCOM commission looking at the report that is going to come before them after the recount. What happens if that recount had thrown up all the observations which had said, among other things, it was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that these people were out of the country yet voted? How does the order or the laws of Guyana, when it comes to elections, says that GCOM should have treated with a scenario like that?
Leonard, it is look, you don't even need to go there. It is clear fraud. It's an impersonation. If I go and I represent, if I impersonate you, that's a clear impersonification. It's a fraud. I have portrayed myself to somebody as you, and that's fraud. Leonard, there were policemen at every polling station. You mean a policeman was also blind? All the police force was also under the pay of the opposition, that they didn't see somebody was entering the polling station more than once? The narrative is unbelievable. Let's come to your question. Supposing indeed somebody did multiple voting, then GCOM has to go find that person. He who alleges must prove. Leslie James, if he's saying that somebody voted for Leonard Gildarie, they now have to go to ensure that indeed Leonard Gildarie voted. That's one. Because all those numbers, we don't know. The public hasn't been informed whether the 172 are actual ticks or not, whether it's allegation of them having voted or not. So first of all, you got to verify that those numbers, those persons voted. Let me just draw this to your attention at this point, sir, and to everybody's attention. If you are saying, and I'm going to use your name, Leonard, if you are saying that somebody voted for Leonard Gildarie and voted for themselves, it means the person voted at least twice, right? Now, if you are saying that is so, one, as I said earlier, the policeman at that workstation was blind. The PO was blind. The APNU agent was blind. The PPP agent was blind. Every observer was blind. Everybody else, right? So all of those persons, they either were blind or they were bought out, including the entire police force, including Leslie James, who managed the police force. They were all bought out by the opposition during these elections because they didn't see any fraud. That's one. Two, if this person, Leonard, if GCOM says that APNU called Leonard name and GCOM say it was ticked, here is my question. Did anybody verify that indeed it was ticked? Did any independent observer verify that indeed it was ticked? Because I tell you what, are we being mingoized again? That somebody is saying it's ticked and it wasn't? Because had the world not screamed at Mingo, we would have had a government sworn in on absolute fabrication. And so that question as to whether 172 names were ticked, I want one of the independent observers, I want a CARICOM observer to tell me, yes, we saw them ticked. I am not going to take GCOM's word for it because GCOM has lost credibility.
So where does that leave us in the coming days? And let me tell you why I'm asking. I have taken off my hat to ask that question as somebody who doesn't know. In the next coming days, the coalition has been insisting that there's multiple cases of people living overseas and voting. In a very short while, I have my colleague Kemal King, who has been on top of this, these cases, these reports in the last couple of days, with other of our reporters down at the Convention Center there. And Yog, what is coming out, the question that I want to ask you, or the observation I want to make, is that the next coming days, based on the arguments we saw, one, Joseph Harmon over the weekend, and the various statements coming out from the APNU FC camp, is that they're convinced, and they have convinced a majority of their supporters that something went very wrong, including overseas voters who were here, and that there was some other things, and they would want to see that being contemplated by GCOM, by the Commission, when they are taking those declarations. And so therefore a couple of things. What is, my question to you, Yog, what is the AFC, APNU AFC, looking for the GCOM Commission to do?
The APNU AFC is basically hoping that GCOM will deliver an election result that the electorate did not deliver. Right? So I can't put it as plainer than that. But here, going back to your question, you know, Leonard, everybody feels that you and I, by saying the things we are saying here, that we probably take a side. I don't have a side. I don't care who.
No, we have to ask the question. But Yog, we have to ask the questions. Whether look,
we have to.
Half of Guyana went one way, half went the other way. Are they not Guyanese? You have to stand. You have to wear different caps in this. It is our job to do it. So it is not we not taking side. We just bring in the debate, a healthy debate, a mature debate to the people of Guyana.
Correct. And I tell you what, Leonard, this thing goes further than this, you know. This thing is more than just taking Kool-Aid. And it's a lot of Kool-Aid sharing out. But I tell you what, if you are saying, let me just take this analysis. If you are saying you already counted 300,000 votes, let's go with what Brian posted just now. You got 300,000 votes and 200,000 you got questions over. Right? Which means, Leonard, it means the 100,000 persons that voted in this country, they voted multiple times to raise 456,000 votes. It means that in every polling station, everybody voted 2, 3, 4 times to make that amount of. It's ridiculous. Look at the numbers. Remember what Sir James said. It's a math game. The numbers can't lie. Leonard, they are saying if it's 50,000 votes they're querying, they're saying 50,000 people voted more than once. You mean 50,000 people entered polling station multiple times and were not seen? Something has to be wrong, man. They got to come with some better narrative than that.
Well, I'm not so bright, and I could only answer the question that people are asking, and my job is to transmit them to you. You have some ideas, and we do what we have to do, but we're not taking sides. I've insisted on that, and that is the way that Kite Show Radio is going to be doing. And I think you too, Yog, you have we have to put on different caps and try to think what's likely to play out here, what is likely to play out there. So if you're now joining us, elections and COVID-19 watch here, Kite Show Radio 99.1, 99.5. You could get us on Kite Show Radio on Facebook as well as on YouTube. And you could go to Kite Show News online, and it's also there. You could be able to play radio from there. And now I want to welcome you to Kimal King, my colleague reporter. They've been working very, very hard over this last couple of months, not only on Elections Day and onwards, but before Elections Day. And Kimal would have been with us, giving us live updates with Michaela King, and she came a day from the Artichon Convention Center. And so I want to say welcome, Kimal. How are you doing?
Hi, Mr. Gildarie. I'm okay.
Have you been sleeping?
I have, but not a lot.
Very good. So I see you've been, there's some big headlines here in Kite Show News today. Top cop gives false information to Claudette Singh. Explain.
All right. So Joseph Harmon, who is the campaign co-chair of the APNU-AFC, had forwarded a letter to the chair of GCOM on the 21st of May. And that letter basically said that the APNU-AFC has found many cases of persons who were out of the jurisdiction, but that it appears as though votes were cast in their name. The coalition has been alleging for quite some time that votes were fraudulently cast in many different cases using a lot of elaborate techniques, and these allegations that they've been making are all to support a claim that they've made that the PPP are that they rigged the election process on election day. The chair of GCOM, Justice Claudette Singh, she had said that he who asserts must prove, and the public had thought that this meant GCOM would require the coalition to prove on its own every claim that it had been making. However, the day after the chair made that statement, she sent off a letter to the police commissioner, Mr. Leslie James, with a list of 207 names. And the cover letter for that list said that these are persons who the coalition is claiming were out of the country but had votes cast in their name anyway. And she asked the commissioner to have the immigration department verify that these persons were actually out of the country. So when the Commissioner of Police responded, he attached a list of 172 names he said was forwarded to him by the Deputy Chief Immigration Officer, that's Senior Superintendent Ewart Ray. And those 172 names, it is claimed that they were out of the country. Now,
And wait, let me just take this pin here so the people could understand. The commissioner was written to provide, he was given a list and he was supposed to verify whether these people were out of the country or in the country.
Right.
And he has responded to the GCOM chair saying these are the people who are out of the country.
So it's not the Commissioner of Police who had to prepare the report. He is effectively responsible for the Immigration Department. So he had to forward the information to his subordinates. And so the report that he sent back of the 172 names, that report was forwarded from the Deputy Chief Immigration Officer, right? Now, when Kaitor News received this list, we decided to peruse it, and we got multiple reports of persons saying, I'm on this list, but I am not, I didn't leave the country, or if I left the country, I came back and I voted on election day. And so there were two videos circulating. Andriana is one person, Andriana Prasad, and the other person was Amos Bola. Now these persons were seen holding up their passports, showing that, yes, I am the person that is on number 8 and number 9 on this list. And I had not left the country. I was in the country on election day. Then one of our staffers, believe it or not, I think people tend to underestimate how small and well-connected a place Guyana really is. One of our staffers looked at this list and they said, oh my God, I know this girl, one of the persons who's on the list. And so what they did was reach out to the person and verify that she also was in the country. And those reports formed the basis of the story in the paper today. Believe it or not, Mr. Gildarie, I actually got a call this morning from somebody too. And they said, hi, yes, are you Kimal King? I'm calling about the story that you wrote in the paper today. I want to say that my name is on that list. And so we put out this list, and it's good that people are looking at it. There are many people who are now going to look at it and see, my name is on it, or the name of a person who's living in my community was on it. Let me try to verify if what is coming from the Immigration Department is true.
So at this point in time, Kimal, do we have any other names as today that have come forward? How many more names have we been able to verify today?
One young woman called me. She is from the West Coast, and she said that her name is on that list. However, I would not be able to disclose her identity at this point because I haven't determined whether she's comfortable with that yet. But just one person this morning.
Yog, this seems to be a comedy of errors here. How do you explain this, sir?
Well, you know, it would be left to Mr. Leslie James now to take responsibility for his subordinates' action. I mean, this thing is mind-boggling, you know, to see the kind of... And Leonard, what does it say to the population? That the records of the police and the Immigration Department and all of that is highly questionable. And one has to go back to, so where are all these Haitians? Where are all these people who came in the country and nobody knows? I think Mr. Felix was on record saying they don't know when they left and where they went. So what has been happening here, and why all of a sudden one set of persons, one political party seem to have access to all kinds of information? But Kimal, I have a suggestion for you, if you don't mind, sir.
No problem.
So here is my concern. For these, let's limit ourselves to the 172 names. For the 172 names to form part of a record, GCOM has to verify that they were indeed ticked.
That's
yes?
right. So the
now,
go ahead.
So, however, I and the population of Guyana, given Mingo, we can't trust GCOM's word. I need to know whether any of the CARICOM observers observed that indeed these persons were ticked.
Right.
I know you can't answer me now, but I would like to leave that with you, sir.
I actually can answer you. So yesterday, the public relations officer for GCOM, Ms. Yolanda Ward, approached the media tent outside of the recount center yesterday, and we spoke about this specific issue. We asked her, Shakima Day, who was there, asked about whether GCOM has already verified that these persons had voted or had ballots issued to them. And the public relations officer said, no, we just took the list and we sent it off that way. And when pressed about verifying to determine whether these persons had ballots issued to them, the public relations officer said that the OLEs, which include the lists that you can check to see if the names were ticked, they're all locked back in the ballot boxes. So in order for GCOM to go and verify whether those persons had ballots issued to them, GCOM would have to go back and open every single box. And that's not a decision GCOM has made yet about whether or not it will do so.
Okay. But also remember, thank you for that clarification, but also remember that let's take the last week, for example. The last week, if we use that as a snapshot, we would have heard through the audio that one political party would have been calling out certain serial numbers and GCOM would have said ticked. So what my query is whether when GCOM says ticked, whether there is any independent verification that indeed those were ticked, given Guyana's history, or Guyana's disbelief of anything and the credibility of GCOM at this stage.
Well, I would not say that there is anybody else who would have such a list. Maybe the political parties would have their own lists. But the mantra that you're hearing is that you should trust GCOM and only GCOM for information. But here, you're talking about public mistrust in GCOM. That's one thing. But there is also another issue with how these observations were being recorded. So, a directive just about over a week ago was passed down to the staffers counting at the center there, that when an objection is made to a certain serial number, you only note the objection if the person's serial number was ticked off. So before that, objections were being made excessively, and the GCOM staffers probably were noting serial numbers without checking to see whether they were ticked. So that complicates the process, that a couple hundred boxes would have already been counted, and they've already noted observations for serial numbers that were ticked and that were not ticked.
Okay.
So I come in here now. Kimal, what has it been like? It's been more than a month of camping out in a tent that you've been beaten by rain and sun and everything. Are we likely to see, based on what you're seeing, based on what you're hearing, that this thing continue for another 2 weeks, or we should see an end of it by next week? What are you thinking?
Well, first of all, I'll correct you. What's the date today? Today's June 2nd. That makes 3 months since Election Day. So this did not start with the recount. It's been held since March 2nd. We've been running around. I would say that with the pace that GCOM is going right now in terms of how many boxes are being counted per day, there are just under 500 boxes more to be counted, and they would count between 80 and 100 per day. I'd say that we should have all of the boxes recounted by the end of this week. And then after that, GCOM has to sit and talk about what they're going to do with the observation reports. So in terms of counting, I would say we're well on the way to finish by Saturday.
And are we hearing from the coalition? Have they been engaging the people of Guyana?
There are a series of letters that Kaichor News has secured. These are letters that were sent by Mr. Joseph Harmon to the GCOM chair. In terms of engagements with the coalition and the public, we have not had many engagements at the media tent. I would have reported previously that the coalition has established an alternative media center across the street from the Recount Center, right in front of the National Aquatic Center. So we have our media tent, and there's the alternative media tent, and that is what the coalition has been using to disseminate information. So I would say that they prefer to do their live feeds and put out their information from that tent. But it's not often that we would get an opportunity to have them under our tent and ask our questions.
So the big story for the day is this information that's coming with regards to the overseas voters, the alleged overseas voters?
Yeah, well, that is one of the issues. There is also the issue of the claims that were being made by the coalition about dead voters. So we are actually in possession of some of those claims, and you can probably expect reporting soon on that matter as well.
As a young reporter, Kimal, and I'm sure that maybe you would want to butt in with you though. As a young reporter, reporting on what has been transpiring, developing day in, day out now, especially in 2020, what has been your thoughts in terms of democracy in Guyana?
I would say that when I started covering this election process, I had a lot more confidence in the system. I wonder if I can say that. I had a lot more confidence in the system, and I've seen a lot of misinformation coming from many different directions, from many different political parties. Personally, I had a lot of role models going into this election process, and over the past few months, that list has dwindled down a lot, and that was very disappointing for me. So I wouldn't say that I have as much trust in the system now as I did when the election started.
Yog, any other question for our colleague here?
No, Kimal, keep up the good work. One of the things I'm sure you would say is that you would have experience-wise aged probably 10 years over 88 days, right?
Right.
Keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you.
So there you would have had it. Kimor King, one of our emerging reporters who's done a fantastic job with Michaela Prince as well as Shakima Day, and they've been keeping us up to date when it comes to elections 2020 and the recount that is ongoing there at the Artichon Convention Center. Thank you very much.
Has left.
Pardon?
Kimal has left?
No, he's
I'm
still here.
Kimal, I have one, don't think this is facetious in any way, my friend,
okay.
But I have one last one for you. If you have an opportunity, could you do us a kind favor of directing a question to whom it may concern?
Sure.
In terms of, last night we had Sir Ron Saunders on our room 592, and he was very clear that if these elections are not declared from a credible results, personal sanctions would be meted out to persons, not just the country, to persons. Mm-hmm. So whether GCOM's persons are concerned about any sanctions.
Okay, that's definitely a question I can pose.
Thank you.
I just have one other question for you here, Kimal. This list here that has come out, has this been released by the police? Who has it been released to?
This list has not been released to the public. It was forwarded to GCOM,
Uh-huh.
but Kaichor News happened to get our hands on it.
Okay. Very much. Thank you very much, dear Kim King, one of our reporters here at Kaiser News, and he would have been bringing you updates, elections 2020. Keep up the fantastic job, Mr. King, young Mr. King. Thank you very much, dear. So, if you're now joining us, elections and COVID-19 watch, and we would have been here, myself and Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and of course our young reporter Kim King. Yog, before we head straight into the lines, you know, we like to hear people talk. We want to hear. Yesterday we would have been hearing from as far down as Wayaka. Wayaka is a place in Region 2 by the Lake Mainstay area. People complaining there about the COVID-19, the handling of it, and they're saying that people are not taking it very serious. Even the two showers and so on, the authorities there have been allowing people to travel all over the place, then allow without proper screening to enter back and dwell with other persons. So they're extremely worried. As you will be aware, many of the hinterland communities, not only in Region 2, but we have in Region 8, 9, they have been closing their areas, the environs around there, putting up gates, making sure that before you enter that you seek permission, maybe a letter before you could pass through. They've been clashing with miners over that, especially in Region 9. The miners are insisting that they have been given right away by the authorities, and so they have issues. But many of the communities have introduced systems that are designed to limit the number of persons in that area there. So in Wayaka in Region 2 there, the people are saying that, you know, they call in on the authorities to pay attention to their authorities there, that they're not listening. They're allowing people to come from all over. So if you're listening, let us do something better. We have to protect our people. Yog, you would have heard Kimal there. And before we go to the lines, any thoughts, anything that you want to comment on before we...
I think, you know, I mean, to answer one of our friends, one of our viewers, Jean, you know, the difficulty Kaiser News has had is to whether to release the list sacrosanct, that is the list as it got it. Remember, Jean, the problem we have here is that Kaiser News has to take a risk that released, as you rightly say, release a list that has all the personal information of those persons on the list. Kaiser News had to take that decision, but it also had to take a decision that if it did not release the list as transmitted between the parties, then it could be accused of you know, falsifying lists, and then a lot of hype and a lot of the new set of Kool-Aid would have started to share out because of the list. So it's a difficult call, I know, that the editors and so forth make as to what kind of details to release. And yes, there is concern that persons, Leonard, there is a concern that why would we publish a list of persons' names and date of births and that kind of personal details? But, you know, you're caught sometimes between a rock and a hard place. And in this case, for the sake of the integrity of these elections, it was thought that we better put all information out there, because all the parties, all the stakeholders in this process are actively publishing and sharing these same lists with the same details around.
Yeah, and it is a very good point. I think as responsible media houses, you have to weigh these things as they come forward. What is at stake here? It's the credibility of the elections. One side is saying these people were not in the country. There are questions over whether these people were actually existed. So, you know, when you put it out there, people are able to check, is Leonard Gildarie living there? Is Kevin Smith living there? Is Yog Mahadeo living there? Was he in or out the country? Is this person real? So there's several things that could be done there.
Remember, Leonard is not just Leonard Gildarie. It's Leonard Gildarie who was born on so-and-so date. Because there are many people, you know, with the same names and many persons across this country. I mean, it's a big country, and you have multiple persons with the same names in different places.
Yes, I hear Jean there, and it's something. It's a very difficult thing. But we go straight to the phone lines. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Hello.
Hi. Yes, good afternoon. You on the air, sir? Go ahead.
Yes. No. I noticed you and Yog Mahadeo a lot of hot air on the radio. Let me just inform you about something. I've been listening to this recount. Okay? Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. You have the ear.
I've been listening to this recount. There are times when certain polling stations are being announced. They come for certain polling stations, and I be hearing AP and USC 0. So what is that saying to you? That the observer that was there to represent the AP and USC was not present, or the person was a snitch? Neither those persons did not vote. Neither that particular polling station, those particular polling stations did not have any representative for AP and USC. Period. I know that.
You know of any particular, sir?
AP and USC 0. What is that saying to you? What is that saying to you?
Which polling station do you know that did not have?
Yesterday ordered AP and USC 0. You check it back.
No. You said that there was no representative. There was no representative there. How do you know that? And could
when were those persons have voted? When?
No, I'm asked. So is okay. Go ahead. Make your point.
When were those persons have voted? Did they join services? That is when they voted. Means that no representative for AP and USC was at that polling station.
I don't understand. Yog, you want to comment on that?
I cannot hear. It was very low. Can you just?
That's what I'm telling me. That's what I'm telling me. AP and USC 0. I heard that more than once, more than twice. So what's the point you're making? That in every station, every polling station, that all these people got to be blind or whatever, and they got to be dead or whatever.
I'm not understanding. Hold. We want to understand what is it that you're saying. You're coming in and out.
The point I'm making is that you're saying, how is it that AP and USC could say that the people voted? All these people who were not on the list voted. It means that you are saying that they had to be dead when those people came. And AP and USC report supporters who were there at the polling station. I'm saying that when the count was done, I heard AP and USC 0. It means that there was no AP and USC person in that polling station. No AP and USC, because they would have voted. At least you would have heard AP and USC 1 or AP and USC 2. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I have absolutely no idea what you're saying there. Yog, you want to try that?
Sorry, listen to me. Listen to me for the final time. Listen to me. I heard y'all saying, I'm listening to y'all every day. Yog Mahadeo saying, all these people in all these 2,300 something polling stations, where were these AP and USC observers when those dead people and those persons voted? Were they dead? Were they sleeping? So if it is that those you're saying that every polling station is supposed to have AP and USC observers, right? Or polling clerks or whatever, polling agents. Why is it when the numbers were called for persons who voted for that particular polling station or those particular polling stations, you heard AP and USC 0? What's 0 telling you? That the persons were not there. AP and USC observers were not there, or polling clerks were not there. Were not at those particular polling. And you know where these things happen? In Region 6 and Region 3.
Sir, that is absolutely untrue. That is absolutely untrue. As yet, as yet, no political party has said that there was any of the polling stations that was unmanned by their own observers or agents. In addition, sir, every political party had scrutineers. They had persons that were responsible for areas that they were visiting all of the various stations. I think you are getting mixed up with regards to the agents who were released to go and vote, and you are looking at the numbers of votes being called, and if you are believing or you are saying if a polling station has 0 vote for, let's say, LTC, it means they didn't have an agent there. That is not so. They have an agent, nobody voted for them.
I am telling you it is so, but y'all are one-sided people. I'm listening to y'all.
Okay, can you identify a polling station that you visited and we will ask GCOM?
Y'all are one-sided.
Well, you need to identify it because you're making some statements.
GCOM, we're going to ask GCOM to clarify who and who was present at that polling station. I'll tell you, to your accusation of us being one-sided, Leonard and I are on record saying that polling officer that held up the polling book should be detained. Should be kept behind bars.
Yog, we welcome all callers here. I wasn't very clear what the gentleman is saying. Up to now, I'm very, very confused. If it is that he's saying that people voting and there was 0 votes for the coalition, I don't understand that point. What are you saying? So because somebody didn't vote for the coalition or the PPP, something is wrong? That's the conclusion? The second thing is, I'm not aware of any station, at least nobody has said that to me, in which there are now political representatives who are overseeing or who are looking on, representatives of the different political parties. If there's any, then somebody needs to tell us. But as far as we know, as far as the observers, the international observers would have said, according to what the political parties would have said and others, the only political parties that we know did not have representatives at all the polling stations were the smaller parties.
But if Leonard, stick a bit. Hold on. It gets beyond belief. Is he saying that GCOM didn't run that election, so GCOM didn't have a polling officer at that station? Is he saying the police were not present? Would GCOM officer be blind? Is the police also taking bribes? So that means the entire police force should also come under investigation. Leslie James shouldn't have been accused of sending false information to GCOM. He should now be conducting an investigation to all of the officers at the polling stations. This is beyond, it's beyond comprehension sometimes, but it is what, and I thank the caller for calling. Look, absolutely. I am not upset with the caller calling. I thank you for calling because it tells us how much of the different narratives are being spread across the country. And it also tells us that it doesn't matter how much of the truth or how much of the unleashing of the truth and how much of the logic we talk, it's not going to be accepted by those who are going to be loyal to the untruth. And that's the bottom line.
And so we have, I think Mr. Craig is also saying that a lot of what is being said on the program, this Leonard Craig, is being twisted in some cases fictional. I'm not sure if he's referring to what Kemal would have said. Look, you could call in Mr. Craig if you're there. The program is here. We want to hear from the people of Guyana. This program is not ours. We're just facilitating it. We could only act on the evidence that's there. The international observers said one thing. We could only report. We can't report on what is not said. If the international reporter, the U.S., the observers, the OAS, the Commonwealth, the Carter Center, whoever is saying things, we can only report what they're saying. We can only report what CNN is saying in Brazil. We can't say anything else. So if you're saying that there's another side of the information, I took off my cap and I asked Yog, and we asking the question. So what happens with those observation reports that the coalition would have been raising? That is my job to do that. But if you're also saying the people who are listening, and of course everybody has a right to their opinion.
Can I interject?
Please.
Can I interject and say this? If Mr. Craig or anybody wants to talk anything about these elections, bring your SOPs. Full stop. I am not willing to engage false narratives anymore. Bring the SOPs. Let's compare the SOPs, because none of them, not Mr. Craig, none of them has said a word about Mingo's flagrant breach of the law. Going through those ballot boxes, forget anything else. Going through those ballot boxes have shown what happened, what Mr. Mingo tried to do to this country. If you can't talk about Mingo, you have no right to talk. You have no moral ground to talk about anything in these elections. Your morality is absolutely missing if you can't talk about what your Mr. Mingo tried to do to this country. Full stop.
Well, Yog, I think we had another caller though. Caller, good afternoon, you're on the air.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Leonard. Good afternoon, Dr. Yog.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Yog, I'd like to throw a question out to you. We know you is an attorney. We don't know if he is practicing or not right now.
Go ahead, you're near.
Yeah, Dr. Yog, we'd like to ask for your service pro bono now because we know you're the impartial person. We're asking you to please, we wanted to file a charge against the chairman of GCOM for causing the death of that boy that was protesting GCOM Mingo fraud. Is there any possibility you're willing to help us?
Well, first of all, sir, I did a bachelor's degree in law. I am not an attorney in law. I'm not admitted to practice at a bar, and so I make no pretenses about it. What I do is that every time I make any statement out there with regards to law, I will certainly consult a lot of the lawyers to ensure that my thinking is right. And you know what? But to come to your question, look, every citizen of this country has a right of access to the court to voice their grievances if they feel their human rights were upturned, were taken away, if they feel that the laws were inequitably applied to them, if they feel their freedom is somehow trampled upon. Every one of us has an equal right of access to the court. The court, however, cannot allow itself to be inundated or should not allow itself to be inundated with frivolous claims and all of that. So there are some steps and processes in the way. What I would like to say to that caller, Leonard, is that this is why you and I have called for a commission of inquiry into the entire election, including the protests. And if it is true, if it is found true that anybody engineered protests and engineered the deaths of people and engineered beating up of school children, I would be the first to say lock them up and throw away the key, because violence is never the answer. But if it is that police acted irresponsibly, then they must also be disciplined.
I agree with you, Dr. Yog. But also, if it wasn't for Mingo fraud, tolerated, no. One person, I had doubts that the chairman wasn't for that. But now she has convinced me. That she is part of the rigging machine for the PNC. And I don't care about AFC. They're dead already. The PNC, I lived through the time when they were rigging. I was an intel officer of Guyana Defense Force in the 80s. So I can tell you what's going on. So I know what is going on. So I never trust her for a single minute. And thank you, and thanks very much to that Kaicher News reporter. That's Coda same. That's wonderfully done, because I know he is working with exceptional pressure under. So he welcome wonderful reporting from a young reporter. For a longest while, I hasn't come across an impartial reporter like that. You all have a good day, Comer.
Thank you very much. And let me say one thing, and we're going to report it. We're going to say it, we're going to repeat it, we are going to continue report it. When it comes to Kaicher News and Kaicher Radio, nothing is going to stop us from continuing to do our work. We did it prior to 2015. We were very much in the PPP space. We bought the PPP here, we bought Anand Lal here, we bought the president here, we bought Donald Ramatar here. Everybody we have bought. We've invited time and again, Yog, the coalition, and that invitation remains open. When you come, the same way we've treated the others, you're going to be treated with the same respect. We're not going to disrespect anybody. But our job, our mandate of Kaicher Radio and Kaicher News is going to continue in a very impartial manner. So yes, all callers are welcome. We invite you to say your piece, to give your opinion. Let's remain on a very responsible platform. Let us be responsible and respectful to the viewers and listeners that we have on this program here. And so I'm not sure if you want to comment on what the caller would have said.
Well, thank you for calling again, caller, because look, it's obvious that people on both sides of the political divide, they are getting extremely concerned.
Yep.
Leonard, the days are passing, and if you recall this, Leonard, when you and we are on this program for 3 months now. And if you recall, when that order was gazetted, you and I said something on radio that the chairman of GCOM, I think I call her the reluctant chairman, reluctant to be proactive. In her reluctance, she is causing serious damage to the psyche of this nation. I can only ask everybody, including our last caller, we got a week more, maximum 2 weeks more. God forbid if anything else were to happen between now and then. But based on the order, based on what's on paper, we got 2 weeks more. And the results will come out. And the international community will not accept a non-declaration, neither will they accept a declaration that lacks credibility. So obviously, all eyes are and will be on Guyana, and we can only wait. I'm going to ask, let us all be very patient, and let us see what's going to happen. I still sincerely hope, maybe it is now a prayer, that, Justice Claudia Singh will be vindicated at the end. She has her own style of management. She's taken her time. I know a lot of people are beating me up when I say this. She's taken her time. She has her own way of doing stuff, but she is probably doing all of that to ensure that she seems or continues to seem impartial. I know Timothy Jonas disagrees with that, but, that's my view at this stage.
Thank you for that, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Thank you for joining Elections and COVID-19 Watch. And Yog, something is bothering me as the days go by. You said something, and I'm very, very much convinced that is indeed true. People are getting really, really worried. They've been told by the respective political parties, by the coalition, that they have won the elections, and it's more than 3 months now. People are very, very frustrated. People want to know. I'm more than convinced. That call a little early, it rattled me a little. Let me tell you why. We could talk things here because we're having conversation. The caller is very convinced that his party, his coalition, has won the elections. On the opposite side of the platform there, the PPP is convinced that they've won the election. Let's say this thing goes south and whatever it is, that the decision has to be made that maybe the coalition stays in or the PPP goes into power. What does the party, the losing side, and if I may use such a word, say to the supporters? People really hurting. It is a time, it's a call for actions, Yog, for people to start doing things differently, for everybody to hit the table. This is very, very hurtful. I could hear the pain in that gentleman's voice.
Correct. But I tell you what, Leonard, one could say, I see one of our viewers, make a very good comment there. Instead of pointing fingers at each other, we should be campaigning for a better election process. But, I would like to say to everybody, I have been across. On election day, I moved around. Leonard, I was part of a couple of teams that had to send feedback to various countries as to what was happening here. Excuse me. And so in dealing with the overseas visitors, we had to look at what's going on at various stations. We had to talk to persons. We had to talk to policemen. We had to talk to any number of persons to see their thoughts of how these elections were going. Now, I myself, with my phone, I still have it. I got about 100 and something photographs of the SOPs that were posted on the fence. You guys publish on Stabrook News a whole set. On Kaiser News. Kaiser News published, Stabrook News published. These are independent. This has nothing to do with PPP or PNC or anybody. When you look at this, I want to say to anybody out there, let your party, whichever party you belong to, let your party release its SOPs, and then we can have a man-to-man talk, as we say in Guyana. Then we can have a frank discussion. Don't hide, don't throw up smoke in the air and hide behind it. And when the wind blow away that smoke, you throw up another set of smoke 1 mile away and you hide behind that And when the wind blow away that smoke, you throw up dead people. When that's gone, you throw away, So all of these things are inconsistencies that are pointing to a problem, a systemic problem we have in this country. But more than that, it points that in 2020, 54 years after independence, we have so much mistrust for each other that because, and I want to say this, Leonard, because people hate, I have no hate, I have no love for Mr. Granger or Mr. Jagdeo. They are equal citizens in this country and I have respect for them. But because people hate Jagdeo or hate Ali or hate Granger or hate somebody so much, you hate them so much that you're willing to burn the ballot boxes. This election mustn't matter just so that they must not get into office. What you are really saying is that no election in the future must matter. And when your children and my children become adults, they will live as servants to political masters, to dictatorship, where there will be no election because we hate the other side. That cannot be the argument we must go forward with. Bring your SOPs, let us see what's going on, and we can talk. And we can fix this problem, but we can't fix the problem if you continue to hide behind new smoke every day. Get rid of it, face the truth, and let's talk, man to man.
Absolutely. And so, it raises a very real question, Yog. The point that I raised earlier, a lot of people are really, really hurting. But the right thing to do is let us discuss it, let us get it out of the way and move on. We need to move on. We cannot be stuck. Everybody is moving on. The rest of the world, yes, we faced with the COVID-19 pandemic, but everybody is doing the thing. They're moving. They need to get on and get this with and over with and done with. So there's another caller online. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Mahadeo and Mr. Gildarie.
Yes, sir.
I would like to thank all the polling day workers. That is the PO, the APO, the clerks, the agents, for their excellent work. Because on checking the SORs, there are no zeros on the want of official mark. It means that all the ballots were stamped. You see, and yesterday I listened to the PRO of GCOM saying that of 5 regions, there were 1,927 rejected ballots. But she has to be cleared, as Mr. Gray said in today's kite show, under what category. Like the categories are 1 ton of an official mark, that is a 6-digit stamp. 2, mark or void of uncertainty, no visible mark for any party. 3, mark for more than one list of candidates. And elector identify. And Mr. Graves hit that nail on his head today. I think the PRO is shielding under the general thing. She should have said for rejected ballot, for official mark, there are so many. You are inciting violence. When we're telling the people that so many thousand ballots were rejected, we are inciting this country into violence. When we should say, look at the SORs and look at the want of official mark. Many zeros are there. Miss Rhonda Lamb said, on checking 5 regions, there are only about 20 on-stamp ballots. And it's very distressing that we are telling the nation, look, so many people lost their votes. It's not good. It's not good at all. Coming from the Election Commission PRO. Not good. The workers of GCOM did an excellent job. We must praise them. They did an excellent job. So I'm not seeing why they're saying rejected. They should say how many ballots were rejected for the stamp. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well said, sir. Well said. And Leonard, I think the caller has raised a very important point, and I wish to respond to one of our viewers that has asked a question, to Judy. I think Judy Glad. Who has said that why don't we talk about the poll books and the same issue this gentleman has raised. I want to put it in perspective like this. A week ago is probably too long. 4 days, 5 days ago, Leonard, what came out? One political party said that, oh my God, 8,256 of the disciplinary services votes seem not to matter. 8,000 of them were not counted because they were not stamped. And Leonard, you and I got beaten up on our program with callers calling in afterwards even to tell us that we are not talking about these 8,000 persons whose votes were rejected. The truth is, Judy, so far only 2,000 and probably 2,300 votes have been declared as rejected. For, as the last caller said, for a number of reasons. If a man voted twice, or if a woman or anybody, a voter votes twice on a ballot paper, and you don't know which one of the party he voted for, it will be rejected. If a voter decides he will write his name or draw somebody's face on it, it will be rejected. Unless your vote, the intent of your vote is very clear, it is not a valid ballot. And so this notion that there are so many rejected ballots must be questioned. Where are you hearing that from? The other thing quickly, Leonard, I want to go back to the SOPs because people are now saying from one side of the political divide, why everything is mingo, and why is SOP? We are now at recount. No, sir. The truth at every step of these elections must come out because we, the Guyanese people, have been taken for a ride for 106 days, $9 billion worth. And the truth of every process, every defaulting officer, every person that took bribes, every defaulting polling officer that did not send on the polling book, every agent and clerk that tried to manipulate these elections must be exposed. Never again must Guyana face this. And we can only put this behind us by exposing, penalizing, jailing who has to be jailed. Put the truth out there, only then we can move on. We cannot move on by hiding behind the skirts of hidden SOPs and political opportunism. And you know what? Half of them who are talking all kind of nonsense about migrant voters, they themselves don't live in this country, for heaven's sake. It's getting really messed up.
Thank you very much for that answer. There's a caller online. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
I always like to say I told you so, but I'm not going to say that right now. One of the questions that I have asked over the period of time, and the reason why we're having all this back and forth and all these things, is we're having sure too many political people giving us answers. Now, Ms. Ward, in her defense, she reported what was said to her from the commission, the secretariat. That's all. She can't tell you how much was stamped and how much wasn't stamped. The problem with everything that's been happening, I don't care what Mr. Yog said that the Chico chairman is reserved and she's staying back. It comes a time when you need to come out and represent yourself, but not just yourself, represent your organization. Things are being said about you and your style of work that is not above board in our view. Secondly, this one, Mr. Yoga may go wrong with, but I'm going to say it. I am not too worried. I don't care about nobody outside threatening Guyana. I believe that Guyana can take care of itself, but Guyanese need to wake up and see. Not today. For the longest while, politicians have been telling us stuff, and we know the truth, and we accept what they say. Why? I can't say we're foolish. I think we're too hooked on race and hooked on party. We're so dedicated to race and party that the truth could hit us right in the face, and we do not accept it. That is totally wrong. I'd like to ask Mr. Yog, as a jurist, he did a bachelor's, so he's making him a jurist. What can anybody do after, if no inquiry is done into GCOM as a citizen? There's one. Two, and I'd like to find out what happened to the COVID task force. We're not hearing anything from them. Has that task force been dissolved? All we're hearing is these snippets and then Mr. Harmon between politics and COVID. And we can't accept, especially for me, Mr. Harmon can't accept it. I live in Middle Street. I know Mr. Harmon. So when I say I can't accept it, I could say I can't accept it. And I could say that to his face. So what happened to the COVID task force? I listen to your comments out here.
Thank you very much. Let me answer the task force thing. The little task force thingy, Yog. We haven't heard anything, and we can't answer you for it. There was a statement by the Chief Executive Officer Joseph Harmon on Saturday with regards to the fact that there's not going to be any total lockdown at this point in time. They're looking at lengthening the number of days with the COVID-19 measures. With regards to the other question, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, you may want to answer that.
Well, there is no easy answer to what action we can and cannot take against GCOM. However, GCOM being a constitutional body, to that call, I want to just add a little bit more fuel. And that is, the chairman has security of tenure. And so if these elections, if another elections will be called very soon, you might very well be having the same chairman going forward, unless, of course, the chairman decides to quit. The chairman of GCOM has security of tenure. That basically means it's an appointment for life. You cannot fire the person. The person is, not within the reach of politicians. With regards to, of course, as you said rightly, my brother, we'll continue to disagree as to the effect of sanctions, because I tell you why. Simple reason. Many reasons are there, but I'll throw one simple one at you. Do we all remember that this last National Assembly, as those before, under PPP government, and this one under PNC, APNO AFC government, that 1/3 of the National Assembly were foreigners? They were dual citizens that swore an oath to the foreign powers. I have no problem if Leonard or me or you or any one of us have dual citizenship, but there are certain things you should not do. You should not do wrong knowing it is wrong. You took an oath to swear you owe no allegiance to any overseas country, and you took that oath knowingly to enter into parliament. You took that oath knowing you were going to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs. You took that oath knowingly that you will be the head of the president, what's the position called? Director General of the Ministry of Presidency, or whatever it's called. Now, these are people, big men and big women, who take oaths, and they lied. Here is how it applies to sanctions. They are overseas citizens. When you and I, sir, that we only got one citizenship, when we are burning up each other because we hate each other, they're protected by the American powers and the Canadian powers. They will do a wrong, or if problems come here, they will be airlifted out, sir. So sanctions bites in two ways. The people will feel the squeeze, and those who are dual citizens will go to where their allegiance truly lies when there's problems. With regards to the other things, sir, if we produce sugar and nobody want to buy it, we produce bauxite, or we produce gold, or we produce whatever, and nobody wants to buy it. If Exxon produces oil and the US said, listen, we're not going to allow you to send the money back to Guyana because the money will be locked down, then sanctions will indeed bite, and it's going to affect us also. You and I can take that debate up elsewhere, but that's my opinion for now.
Thank you very much for that. And so we go straight to the lines again. There's a caller on line. I think we would have lost that. But yes, you're right. We have to look back at what Mr. James would have said, and then saw Ron last evening, what sanctions. Very good interview. Good afternoon, caller. You in the air? Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, you. Good afternoon, Gildarie. How are you guys doing?
Good afternoon, sir.
I'm regularly listening to your program, and you guys carry on a very lovely program. I really appreciate it, especially the foreign guests, the CARICOM, especially guys from CARICOM.
Thank you.
Ron Sanders and the other way. But I have one little thing, man. Last Friday, you had a guy on that saying that the black people don't want an Indian president and Indians don't want a black president. I am an Indian Guyanese. I voted for the APNO AFC for the last 2 elections. Not only me, I have family and close friends, intelligent Indians. Intelligent Indians gave the APNO AFC a vote. We voted for the known Granger's president. We voted for Granger. And he turned his backs on all intelligent people by go into strict party stupidity of the PNC and vote in a coalition that just totally disrespected all of us who voted. So that stupidity, you guys are listening and you guys said nothing. Many Indians voted for Granger in 2015. We all hope the country will change. We are totally disappointed in it, right? So you guys just allow that to go on challenge. I don't think you should do that. Many Indians gave Granger a chance. Many Indians, we held our nose and voted for him because we wanted change for this country. And this country do not have a racial problem anymore, ethnic problem anymore, because it shows that the APNO AFC won the election in 2015 after so many years, after 23 years of PPP. So if the PP win again and they do bad again, we will get them out again. But that nonsense that the ethnic thing is built-in majority, PPP does not have a majority anymore. There's only 39% of Indians in this country. So it means the Indians need a lot more. They need at least 11% more of other people to vote. The key to this country to win this election is the swing voters, that's the racially mixed people and the intelligent Africans and Indians. Because they are intelligent Africans who would vote for the PPP, and they are intelligent Indians who would vote for the PNC based on performance and based on what you say you will do, based on your evidence. Look, I voted for the coalition in 2015, and the first 2 weeks I started cursing them because you know what I said? In their 100 list of things to do, they did opposite. They were supposed to reduce the price of gasoline. They were supposed to reduce VAT. Instead, the first thing they do in the first week of office, they raised their salaries 50%, right? And they put VAT on 200 other items. They put VAT on education and electricity. I mean, everything they said they do, they did not do. They were the opposite. Between me and you, people hate, we don't hate a sinner, we hate a hypocrite. And a hypocrite wants to say, I am better than PPP, I will do better, and you did worse. So it was a slap in the face of all the voters. And I'm telling you, we voted for PPP not because we liked the PPP, but because the PNC was worse than the PPP, and they showed how they did after we voted for them in 2015.
Thank you for that. Thank you. That's it, sir. I think the call is done.
That's an interesting call, Leonard. And if I may, I agree with you, and I think I'm on record. I'm on record saying many times that exactly what you said, that the PPP does not have, if you want to say it's racial voting on Indo-Guyanese alone, the PPP cannot win. But I've also pointed respectfully to the fact that, look, who's co-head of the APNO list? Kemraj Ramtatan, Moses Nagamutu, there is Ganesh Mahipal. There are lots of people there that are not of Afro-Guyanese descent, that are loved and respected by their own followers. Similarly, on the PPP side, you have Edgil, you have Hamilton, you have a lot of people who are not Indo-Guyanese, but are respected and have their own following. So it is true. What's mind-boggling, Leonard, is that we don't have more people like this caller speaking out. And that has to be, and caller, thank you, because that's the conversation we need to have. 1 week ago, Leonard, I remember I said on the same program that the APNO AFC has raised everything under the sun. They raised dead people, migrant voters, they raised Mingo, they raised everything you could think of, but they refused to accept that they lost the elections because they performed poorly. They believe they must have won, notwithstanding their horrible performance. They fired 10,000 sugar workers, put them on the street. Close down this, close down that. Electricity, VAT added to things. Look, electricity to the pensioners. You remember that? They claim they raised pension. Okay, you give one, you take 9. How much the population left with? I'll give you now an example today. David Arbogin raised it yesterday. Fuel prices came down. Leonard, if you and I were not agitating every day for that fuel price, it might never have come down. But we were talking to ministers, we were agitating every day. But ladies and gentlemen, fuel prices have come down. Why hasn't electricity rates come down? So something has to be really wrong with people who can't see. They can't see that this population is suffering. And the previous caller mentioned something right. The COVID task force is so involved in elections that they care not for the men and women of this country that are starving. 1 in every 4 child has no meal. Nobody is saying anything about it. When you hear CDC is selecting their groups that they're going, they're now building a list. I mean, how long is it going to take? People are going to die, and people are going to get desperate.
Absolutely. And I just, before we go to the caller, let me tell you something, Yog. We only have to look to the U.S. and see how people, they don't like to keep a government pretty long in there. We could remember Clinton. We could remember Bush. Immediately after that is Obama. And the switch back to the Republican, now Bush. I think elections is going to be in November. That's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Bush is either he's going to be an enigma that's going to continue, or people are going to boot him. But let's go to the caller there. Another conversation. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Yeah, good afternoon, gentlemen. Dr. Yo and
Leonard.
Gildarie.
Yes, sir.
Very, very good pro. I want to congratulate you guys for doing a very, very good job. Just so the caller, the last caller there, that is exactly what has happened. I myself, I have a very big family, and we voted for the APNU in 2015 because they said a lot of things, and we all want a change. Most people around the country want a change. And I told my wife, I said, look, we voting for change. We got to get a change. My mother, brother, everybody supported them. And the first thing they did, when they raised their salary, that is where they began to lose people. And people lose confidence in them. I travel a lot of places because I go to the interior and work most times. And businessmen, I heard one of them particularly said it take a miracle for APNU to get back in power. Most people, they don't want them in power because they fail this nation. They disappoint the people of Guyana. And look, my mom used to go to the public hospital before election in 2015 to collect eye drop, free eye drop. And they would give her more than one so that she won't have to come back. And the people, the old ladies there, she came and she told me, she said, son, they said don't let's put APNU in power because we won't get free eye drop. I said, mommy, that's a racial talk. Don't entertain that. These people just talking, but we need a change. Well, why you not get your eye drop? I live to see when APNU take over, mommy go back there. And she came to me and she said, son, don't even have staff at the place there. They don't even have people working. They got somebody there who given a prescription to get this eye drop. And I was disappointed. She's going to terrorize a Diamond Diagnostic Center. No staff. The staff reduced to almost nothing. And that is where APNU has taken this country. They failed this nation. And when they've done this election, they're trying to say that people in this body and that body who dare and vote and all kind of thing. Look, APNU, Mr. Brenda, you know you lost this election. I'm sending a message to you today. You need to come off that sticky motor where you're sitting in high. This your last this election. I'm disappointed to see that on March when you went to Lamaha Street and tell the people thanks. You know you see those SOPs. You know you lost the election. You say you're thanking people and you know that you lost the election and celebrating. I'm disappointed, and just like a lot of people are disappointed. We didn't vote for you. We expect a landslide victory for the PVP because everybody has come together and said we're going to put you out because you're disappointed. Dr. Yo, I want to congratulate you. I see when this new government take over, I don't know, but I support you for some good position for like the election chair of the GCOM because the whole of GCOM is in a mess. They got to restructure everything. And this is a very, very... I listen to this program every day, but getting through to this program is difficult, but I keep trying. You have to keep up... And one more thing. What they are doing now with all these things, they told these people, the supporters, that they win. So they got to do something now to say, well, look, when we come declare this election that PPP win, which everybody know, they will say, look, we were cheated. This is the only way I see it right now. We were cheated because these people vote and they went outside, but they didn't give away. This is the only way. They got to say something now. And those who there at the Attic Center, the Lady Convention Center there, and those young people who trying to say this and this body vote, and you know those guys that I'm talking about. This would be done in record for them, because as young people, they shouldn't be doing that, because they are the people who got to take over the PNC and get a chance and try to win people again. But when the time comes when these older ones gone and they are there to take up position, the people are going to remember what they're saying now. Trying to tolerate these lies and these foolishness. It's sad to see that the old ones put those two young guys or who guys there to sit there and talk foolishness. This is going to go down as a legacy for them, and they're killing their own party. No. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, there. And so before we move on, Yog, we have been talking about the elections and COVID-19 here, and that's the theme of it. There is some news coming out now with regards to students. CSEC and CAPE official timetables have been released. Exams set to begin on July 13th. Exams set to begin on July 13th, and this is for the CSEC and CAPE official timetables. We're going to try to get some developments to you with regards to the grade 6, but the CXC has released the final July-August timetables for the upcoming CSEC examinations and Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination. Initially postponed amid COVID-19 concerns. I have a throat problem here. The CSEC and CAPE examination is set to begin on July 13th with the modern language oral examinations, which will run until August 21st, and music practical set to end on July 28th. Candidates will sit English A and English B examination on July 28th and 29th, respectively, while mathematics is slated to be written on July 27th. In early May, CXC had assured that the integrity of the CSEC and CAPE assessments will remain intact, even as many local and regional candidates are expected to sit the exam through the use of an e-testing platform. So we're going to bring you some more details with regards to the CSEC and CAPE as they develop, and you know, grade 6 is set to be written in July as well, so we're going to be paying very close attention. Many parents are paying very close attention because they had the children home since in March, and people are really worried as to what is going to happen. Are our kids prepared? I think they were supposed to take some decision at the Ministry of Education level as to how exactly we're going to do with the reopening of school. We're in June right now. I'm going to tell you that we don't expect school to reopen before September. With regards to the exam, it seems as if it's set. Grade 6 exams are going to continue, is going to be next month, and the CSEC and CAPE definitely is going to be next month. Yog, any comments at this point in time?
Yeah, and I would like to urge everyone, we are sharing the link. I can probably post it on our Facebook page right here, right now. I think you should share that link to everyone so that they could get a copy of the timetable for CSEC and CAPE, as Leonard said. So that is indeed underway. It is something that we cannot postpone. Our children, listen, the children are the most important persons in our country. Not us. We have lived and we will continue living by God's grace, but everything we do now has to be for our children. And, Leonard, indeed that is happening. I want to just quickly harken back to that caller. The last two callers, spoke from their heart. I mean, you could sense the emotions coming out of them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And indeed, that is representative of a lot of persons. I want to remind everyone that persons, the PPPC or APNO AFC, could have only won if 10, 15, 20,000 persons swing from one party to the other. APNO won the last time, and it was because there was about probably 10,000 crossover votes that net into 4,500. But Leonard, the truth is, I continue to be disappointed with some of the youngsters. and this goes to both of the main political parties. If the young ones cannot speak out, if the young ones have lost their moral ground, then what is the state of our future in this country?
A good question, and I don't know the answer to that. What I could tell you is that we should see more independence, and we have been seeing some independence from the younger guys within those smaller parties. I don't like to use the word smaller or the term smaller parties. I believe these are the emergent parties, and so we probably describe them as that because they had some very powerful things to say. We had some very powerful characters who we would have seen bursting into the open, the Schumans, Jonas, and a couple of the others, and of course, don't forget Josh, and who could forget Rhonda Lamb, Ray Lamb, as we know her. She has been very, very outspoken, very well written, and we have to encourage our people, regardless which parties they come from. The people, the APNU coalition has seen, we've seen some very outspoken person, the Ganesh Mahi Pauls and a couple of others who really, very good speakers. I wish that they could just come together and everybody, put this country first. There's another caller in here. Very quick. Yes.
Yeah, go on.
Yes.
Go on.
Go ahead. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Find out I want to raise. The APNU, let me tell you what they did. The first thing to go into power, they raised the salary 100%. Imagine a junior minister getting over $600,000. A minister getting close to $900,000 or more. This is the salary. Imagine the benefit. Secondly, they have 30,000 show workers. And calculate that each one of the show workers must get 6, 7, or 8 members of the family. In other words, they put like over 90 or 100,000 people out of money, out of food money. Thirdly, they raise taxes, all the taxes then, high. Number 4, the firearm license, we raise high. Put taxes on the water and everything. You understand? The next point, try resources. Now, couple 400 workers. Roosters, now, couple 300 workers. And if it happens, still expect to win election. What harm should be interesting is COVID, and why they upon making why they upon media every day talking about the food, and 1,000 food. This work should be interested in people's health and well-being and saying out to relieve the people. And next thing, how come the task force doctor is a pet doctor? So, I mean, the guy needs to do animal and pets.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Any other comments quickly, sir? I think the caller would have gone. Yog, quickly in wrapping up, I think you have a couple of comments. And, of course, this evening, room 592, that's supposed to be interesting. We have a media icon, regional icon, who's going to be with us on room 592. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit of that.
Well, yeah, Leonard, and just quickly to say that, ladies and gentlemen, you got to remember something. When these guests we are bringing on in 592, they are no ordinary persons. If you recall, Mr. Bruce Golding, when he made that statement about the rigging of the transparency of the attempts at rigging, then we had Sir James that came on to back Bruce Golding. We had Sir Ron Saunders. These are people who are respected across the Caribbean, and they're telling us what the Caribbean people think of us and how they view and what they want out of this process. And remind you, they're also reminding those who hold power and want to hold power what's at stake here. Tonight we're going to have a former editor-in-chief of the Trinidad Express, Mr. Oren Gordon. He's born Guyanese, so we're proud of that, as Sir Ron Sanders too was born Guyanese. But this gentleman has also been a correspondent to the BBC. And so we're all going to learn quite a bit from him And we're going to get both into political and economic discussions with him as to his experience there and what he has to say. Tomorrow, Leonard, if I can quickly say this, Mr. Leonard Schumann and Timothy Jonas for room 592. So we're looking at a packed week ahead of open, frank discussions. Every discussion will be focused on these elections.
So I thank you very much there, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, myself, Leonard Gildarie. Elections, COVID-19 watch. We want to say thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. Mr. Dionarine from St. Lucia, you've been calling us. Thank you as a very faithful listener. And of course, across the country, a good day to you people. We're going to be back this evening at 7:30 sharp, room 592. Have a pleasant rest of the day until.